On the 5th New Year after marrying Lars Bo, he suddenly disappeared. Ren Wen went to the police station to file a report. The officer who assisted her looked at the inquiry record, and his expression turned strange. You said your husband is Lars Bo, then what is your name? My name is Ren Wen. Is there any news about my husband? She was blind, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. The officer frowned and banged the table heavily. Please cooperate with us and tell us your real name. Ren Wen was stunned. I am Ren Wen. The blonde-haired man behind her sneered disdainfully. Little blind girl, don't think just because you look alike, you can impersonate someone else. Everyone in Hong Kong knows that Mr. Bo gifted Miss Wen a yacht worth 10 billion to celebrate her pregnancy. Miss Wen's social media posts 9 grid photos every day, and it's been trending for days. At the same time, an interview with Lars Bo was being played on the LED screen opposite. Yesterday was New Year's Eve. Mr. Bo, what was your New Year's wish? Of course, I hope my dear wife has a smooth delivery and stays safe and happy. Thank you, hubby Tilda. Noah Lin's sweet and familiar voice came through, making Ren Wen's scalp tingle and the color drain from his face. 5 years ago, Ren Wen lost his sight in a car accident, and Lars Bo was devastated. Everyone in Harbour City said that the heir of the Bo family would never marry a blind person. Some even found a college student who looked 80% like her and secretly sent her to his bed. After discovering it, Lars Bo almost strangled the girl named Noah Lin. His eyes were bloodshot as he suppressed the turbulent emotions swirling within them. Get out. My heart belongs only to Ren. Any woman who resembles her disgusts me. Late at night, he drove to the hospital and held Ren Wen tightly, his burning tears falling onto her shoulder. Baby, let's get our marriage certificate tomorrow. Okay, I want you to be the rightful mistress of the Bo family. Everyone knew that Lars Bo loved her to death and hated Noah Lin to the core. But why is it that now, the one standing rightfully by his side is Noah Lin pretending to be Ren Wen? Ren Wen felt as if a huge hole had been torn open in her heart, letting in a chilling wind. What on earth is going on? She was going to find Lars Bo and ask for a clear explanation. She walked out of the police station in a daze, only to be knocked unconscious by a falling billboard. Before slipping into unconsciousness, she seemed to hear a voice frantic with anxiety. Honey, what's wrong with you? When she opened her eyes again, Ren Wen was stung by the glaring white light before her. The next second, she widened her eyes in shock. She had miraculously regained her sight. Before she could even take in the unfamiliar world before her, the conversation between Lars Bo and his brother came from outside the door. Lars Bo, how much longer do you plan to let Noah Lin impersonate Ren Wen? It's been a full 5 years. The man let out a sigh and spoke with pain. I don't know either. Back then, the old directors of the Bo family refused to let me marry a blind woman, but I loved Ren so much that I had to lie to them, saying her eyes had recovered. And then had Noah Lin impersonate her. But now all those old directors are dead. Why are you still? Noah is pregnant. Lars Bo quickly interrupted him, sounding agitated, and, I don't know why, but after playing this role for so long, I feel like I really can't live without her. My brother, are you insane? You've developed feelings for Noah Lin. Have you forgotten that the drunk driver responsible for that car accident years ago was Noah Lin's alcoholic brother? If it weren't for him, how could Ren Wen have lost her eyesight? If Ren were to find out about all this, enough. Lars Bo frowned deeply. Noah is innocent. Her brother's crime has nothing to do with her. I've already sent that drunkard to prison, and he'll never get out. After Ren lost her sight, she rarely goes out. There's no signal here. And she lives in this castle I carefully built for her. She'll never find out about any of this in her lifetime. Inside the door, Ren Wen bit her lip hard, tears streaming down her face. Although the castle was as warm as spring all year round, a bone-chilling cold filled every part of her body. She took out a stack of exquisite portraits from her bedside, all drawn by Lars Bo himself, depicting their past together. The first one showed her and Lars Bo meeting during a desert adventure, where he broke his leg and she took care of him for 3 days and 3 nights. The third one shows Lars Bo climbing a 4,000-meter snow-capped mountain alone to pick a snow lotus for her, all in pursuit of her affection. The 8th one depicts how, upon hearing her love for ballet, He spent billions to invite all the renowned ballet masters from Northern Europe to celebrate her birthday. The 15th one features the magnificent, safe, and comfortable castle Lars Boe custom built for her, designed specifically for a visually impaired lifestyle. He knelt on one knee and said, "My love, from now on, I will be your eyes. You are the only one in my heart." The girl in the painting smiles charmingly, her eyes tender and affectionate, as she throws herself into his arms. Renwen forced a bitter smile, lighting each of these paintings one by one. Then, she threw them all onto the bed. "Lars Boe, your love has become tainted, and I no longer want it." The raging flames burned, and the fire alarm blared frantically. Renwen took advantage of the chaos to slip out through another exit, found a phone booth by the roadside, and dialed that mysterious number. "Nick, you said I could return to the orchestra anytime within 5 years. Does that still stand?" A man's deep, cello-like voice responded, "Of course, my beloved Alice. The fans in Northern Europe have been missing you so much their hearts are breaking. But my identity is a bit troublesome. It will take 3 days to process the exit procedures. How do you plan to leave Hong Kong? As far as I know, Bo won't let you go easily." Renwen's eyes flickered. "I'll give him a body, my own corpse." Didn't Lars Boe have someone else impersonate Renwen for her? Since that's the case, she would vanish completely from his life. Suddenly, a pair of warm, large hands abruptly wrapped around her waist. Lars Boe buried his head in her shoulder, his voice trembling with fear. "Honey, thank goodness you're okay. If something had happened to you, I wouldn't want to live either, sis. Brother Bo thought you were still inside. He said you couldn't see and insisted on going in to find you, no matter what." The fire was so intense, the chandelier almost crushed him to death inside. His good brother patted his chest, his face full of lingering fear. Only then did Renwen notice. Lars Bo's arms were covered in burns, his clothes were torn in a large piece, and his eyes were red from the smoke. She gasped, her heart aching with a sharp, needle-like pain. "Lars Boe, you would even risk your life for me. But why can your heart love 2 women at the same time?" "President Boe," a timid female voice came from behind. Noah Lin, dressed in a white dress, looked delicate and fragile as she dragged her suitcase. Renwen felt the hand on her waist stiffen noticeably, then release. Lars Boe rubbed her head and lied without changing his expression. "Honey, a business partner came to discuss some matters with me. Wait for me a moment." Then, he quickly stepped forward and pulled Noah Lin into his embrace, using sign language to say, "Noah, why did you come by yourself? Didn't I say I would come to accompany you and the baby tonight? I missed you too much, and I wanted to come take care of Sister Ren to atone for my mistakes. I'm the one who wronged her." Noah Lin also replied using sign language, "You have nothing to apologize to her for. It's my fault for making you live under someone else's name, and I'm sorry to you and the baby." He kissed Noah Lin's lips, the heartache in his eyes almost overflowing, then said in sign language, "I've chosen names for the baby. If it's a boy, he'll be Bo Siu. If it's a girl, she'll be Bo Yu Yao." Renwen stared blankly at the scene, her heart feeling as if it were being sliced apart, the pain intense. This time last year, she had found out she was pregnant. Lars Boe was overjoyed and booked the entire hot spring resort for her, presenting her with a disc containing 999 love confessions he had recorded. Just as she was about to open it, he received a phone call, and faintly, a girl's crying could be heard from the other end. Lars Boe kissed her abdomen. "Darling, there's an emergency at the company. Wait for me to come back." Renwen didn't suspect anything and obediently waited for a day and a night. She didn't wait for her beloved, but instead, she was met with an avalanche. Their child died that winter. She watched Lars Bo's familiar, doting gesture as he touched Noah Lin's belly and smiled bitterly. It turned out that the only one trapped in that avalanche was herself. "Honey, I've been a bit busy lately, so I've hired a nutritionist to take care of you." Lars Bo held Noah Lin's hand, his eyes filled with adoration. "Hello, Miss Wen." The girl called out timidly. It was Miss Wen, not Mrs. Bo. Lars Bo frowned slightly at her address but did not correct her. Renwen's gaze lingered for a few seconds on Noah Lin's lips, swollen from kissing, her fingertips digging into her palms. Suddenly, warmth enveloped her as Lars Bo draped a wool coat over Renwen's shoulders. It's too cold outside, let's go home, honey. Before she could react, the next moment she saw Noah Lynn make a got-it gesture and receive an affectionate kiss from the man. She watched the two of them walking hand in hand ahead, intimate and inseparable. She watched the man who clearly hated the smell of cooking fumes the most, putting on an apron to help Noah Lynn cook, laughing heartily amid the roar of the kitchen range hood. She watched Lars Boe, as considerate as ever, serving her soup, only to wipe a grain of rice from Noah Lynn's mouth with his own hand the next second. "You little fool, how can you be so adorable?" he signed with his hands. Renwen took a sip of the hot soup and hung his head low. His eyes were sore and burning, yet not a single tear could fall, because he had been loved by Lars Boe. He watched his familiar movements and gaze. Renwen finally realized, it turns out he really did fall in love with Noah Lynn. After the meal, the private doctor came as usual to examine Renwen's eyes. "Mr. Boe, Dr. Chen is unavailable, so I'm here in his place. I've reviewed the medical records, and as long as the medication is continued, there's a strong hope for the lady's vision to be restored." She stood outside the door, listening to the doctor and Lars Boe discuss the condition, her heart aching with sorrow. What does it matter if her eyes have recovered? She and Lars Boe can never go back to the way they were, in this game full of lies and deceit. She would rather remain blind. For the remaining 5 days, she only hopes to leave Harbor City smoothly, and then, with him, never to meet again, in life or death. The room fell silent for a few seconds before a man's calm voice came through. "No need, didn't Dr. Chen tell you? For the past 5 years, I've only had him prescribe the most basic tonics for Madam. If she could see, how would Noah handle it?" A crisp *snap* sound rang out. The diamond ring on her finger was forcibly snapped off by Renwen, blood seeping out from between her fingers. She almost stumbled back to her room, her entire body trembling uncontrollably without her even realizing it. In her panic, she knocked over the wedding photo on the table. In the photo, Lars Boe leaned in slightly, placing a sacred and devout kiss on the girl's forehead. Tap, tap. Her tears fell to the ground without warning, crying and crying. She began to laugh foolishly, her stomach convulsing as waves of bitterness surged up. "Ha ha ha, Lars Boe, you're doing just great." It turns out that the 1,000 dark days and nights she spent in confusion, fear, and timidity were all meticulously planned by Lars Boe. She had cried all her tears, took the wedding photo out of the frame, and fed it into the shredder. As the paper was being shredded, countless sweet memories with Lars Boe in her mind seemed to gradually fade away. "Honey, what are you doing?" Renwen poured the white, flaky scraps into the trash can, his voice dry. "Nothing, just a document that had an error." Lars Boe frowned at the shredded paper, finding it somewhat familiar, however. Before he could think it through, Noah Lynn walked in holding a bouquet of flowers. His gaze was instantly captivated by Noah Lynn. Flowers were thrust into Renwen's arms. "Miss Wen, happy birthday." Renwen was choked by the strong scent of the bouquet, tears streaming down her face. Noah Lynn even covered her eyes and forcibly pushed her to the dining table. "Are you ready?" surprised Tilda. On the pristine marble dining table lay a few pieces of pork ribs with blood foam and stir-fried vegetables that had turned black. It was so absurd it felt almost ironic. Noah Lynn slapped her head in frustration. "Ah, I forgot that Miss Wren can't see." Before she could finish, she suddenly covered her mouth. Looking as if she had said something wrong, Lars Boe immediately signed to comfort her. "It's okay, Wren won't mind." Noah Lynn lowered her head in disappointment and signed. "Why do I always mess everything up? It's okay. I also made a mango cake for Miss Wen." Seeing this, the pity in Lars Boe's eyes was almost overflowing as he urged, "Honey, hurry up and eat the cake." Renwen stood in place, clenching her fists. She suddenly felt extremely weary, her voice as dry as if it had been scraped by rough gravel. "Lars Boe, today is not my birthday, but the anniversary of my deceased child's death, and also, I'm allergic to mangoes." Lars Boe was taken aback, a hint of remorse appearing in his eyes. "Honey, She ignored his plea to stay and turned to leave. Returning to her room, she shut the door, blocking out the woman's sobs and the man's comforting words. She had no idea how long she had been asleep when a strange noise from downstairs woke her. Bleary-eyed, she opened her eyes to see a familiar figure. Lars Boe stayed by her bedside, his gaze tender. "Honey, you're awake. I made some jujube and yam cake for you. Would you like to get up and have a bite?" Ren gently avoided his touch. "No, I don't have an appetite." The man's hand froze mid-air, and he let out a soft sigh. "Honey, don't lie to me. You're still upset, aren't you? Once I'm done with this busy period, shall I take you to a concert?" Ren turned her face away, staring at her curled hair ends, silent and wordless. Seeing this, the man pursed his lips, his handsome brows slightly furrowed. He took Renwen's hand. "Darling, the little girl has prepared a beast show to apologize to you." She frowned slightly, about to refuse, but Lars Boe unhesitatingly carried her downstairs. The night in the first month of the lunar year was bitterly cold. Ren was only wearing thin pajamas, her small face pale from the cold, but it was hidden by the deep night. She shivered several times and saw the man holding clothes in his arms, walking straight toward Noah Lin. He helped her put on the thick protective suit, fastened her gloves and helmet, and finally kissed Noah Lin's cheek with utmost tenderness. "Noah, don't overwork yourself. You and the baby are what matter most." The wind carried his gentle voice into Renwen's ears, striking like a heavy hammer, the moment Noah Lin lifted the cover of the cage. Renwen's pupils contracted sharply. That is an adult tiger and a black wolf. They seemed to have caught a scent, frantically charging around the cage in a frenzy. "Ow!" The black wolf howled at the sky, its yellowish-brown eyes fixed on her with a savage, unblinking stare. Ren instinctively took a step back, suddenly recalling that strangely pungent bouquet of flowers. Suppressing her fear and unease, she said, "Lars Boe, I'm feeling a bit unwell and would like to return to my room." In the past, if she said she was unwell, the man would have been extremely anxious and immediately taken her back to her room. But now, he just frowned helplessly. "Ren, don't be willful. She has prepared for a long time." Renwen's throat felt as if it were blocked by a lump of cotton, and she forced a bitter smile. The show begins, with Noah Lin somewhat awkwardly directing the tiger and the black wolf. The two fierce beasts move through the fire hoops and across the balance beam, and everything seems to be going smoothly. "Great, that's amazing." Lars Boe keeps clapping, his gaze fixed on Noah Lin, filled with deep affection. She had completely failed to consider that Ren simply couldn't see this performance meant as an apology to her, but that wasn't the most important thing. The panic in Renwen's heart grew stronger, and her hands trembled more and more, because only she knew that the tiger and the black wolf were turning back to look at her with increasing frequency, and in their eyes was a cruel, predatory hunger. She retreated without a trace, one step, then another. She was about to step out of their attack range, but then she heard a scream. The figure on the command platform suddenly swayed, and Noah Lin fell, the chain in her hand abruptly loosening. At the same time, the tiger and the black wolf suddenly began to roar wildly. "Noah!" Lars Boe shouted uncontrollably, like an unsheathed sharp sword, and charged forward. The moment he left, Ren was completely exposed to the two beasts. The black wolf of the tiger suddenly stopped its frenzied movements, baring its sharp fangs at her. Renwen's pupils constricted sharply, her breath caught in her throat. Almost instantly, two massive dark shadows lunged toward her. Pain, so much pain, the excruciating pain of having one's internal organs crushed. Ren let out a dying scream from his throat. Before his eyes was a blur of blood red, and in the distance, a man was firmly shielding Noah Lin in his embrace. When he opened his eyes again, Ren found himself lying in a VIP ward of the hospital under the Boe family's name. Chest. The sharp pain in her leg made her groan. "Don't move around." The nurse pressed down on her shoulder. "You're really lucky to be alive. 3 broken ribs, liver bleeding. Last night, the emergency room only had Dr. Zhong, and the family of another patient insisted that Dr. Zhong treat his wife first, saying she was pregnant. Luckily, she only had external abrasions and didn't delay Dr. Zhong's treatment of you. By the way, where are your family members?" Ren felt as if her entire body had been repeatedly run over by a car, her voice dry and hoarse. "I have no family." The nurse was taken aback, her eyes instantly filled with pity. Outside the ward, Noah Lynn's voice could be heard. Lars, I'm sorry. I really don't know why they suddenly went out of control. It's my fault that Miss Wen got hurt. Noah, it's not your fault, you're injured too. The man kissed away the tears at the corner of her eyes. You're still carrying the baby. You're not allowed to cry. Go back to the ward and lie down obediently. Noah Lynn cried even harder. I don't want to go back. I want to apologize to Miss Wen. Hearing the word apologize for the third time, Ren Wen could no longer hold back and raised her hand to smash the cup. The noise outside suddenly quieted down, and Lars Bo hurried in. Honey, do you want some water? Let me pour it for you. Seeing his genuine concern, Ren Wen suddenly felt exhausted. Did you check? Why did they suddenly go mad? Her voice was hoarse, a faint glimmer still flickering in her eyes. The tiger and the black wolf must have smelled something, which made them go wild, and their target is only her, just an accident. Lars Bo replied without thinking, tucking her in. Focus on recovering. Don't overthink it, okay? The light in Ren Wen's eyes completely faded. She stared at him for a long time. Her heart aching with each throb. 3 years ago, she went out alone to rescue a mother cat giving birth in a heavy rainstorm. Unexpectedly, she encountered a group of thugs who had ill intentions toward her. When Lars Bo arrived, he saw the leader grabbing her arm and dragging her into an alley. His eyes suddenly blazed with fury. Beat them up, but leave them barely alive. The screams in the alley lasted for a full 3 hours, and the blood nearly stained the ground red. Ren Wen had never seen him so angry. In the end, all those people were sent to prison, and the one who touched her had his arm broken and was tortured to death in prison. But now, she was almost harmed to the point of being covered in wounds and nearly lost her life. He didn't even bother to check, let alone have a single doubt about Noah Lynn. Ren Wen felt a dead silence in his heart and calmly turned his face away. Got it. Lars Bo felt that something was off, but before he could think it through, he heard the commotion in Noah Lynn's hospital room. He quickly stood up. Honey, I'll go prepare some food for you. Wait for me. Ren Wen just lay quietly, not even giving him a glance. Lars Bo never came back after leaving that time. She was both hungry and tired, and fell into a deep sleep, even in her dreams. It seemed she encountered something sorrowful. As her brows remained slightly furrowed, Ren Wen was awakened by a sharp pain in her arm. She looked down and saw a large, blood-stained bandage wrapped around it. I'm changing your dressing. You just had a skin graft surgery, the nurse said, taking out a new bandage. What skin graft surgery? She asked in shock. Mrs. Bo from the next room scraped her arm. So Mr. Bo had you undergo a skin graft for her, the nurse sighed. It just goes to show that people have different fates. Mrs. Bo gets a tiny scratch, and Mr. Bo is heartbroken. Unlike the rest of us, Ren Wen's face turned deathly pale, as if half her heart had been brutally carved out by a dagger. Her lips trembled, as if she had swallowed a piece of burning charcoal. Her eyes glistening with a damp light. Could you please help me apply for a transfer to another hospital? What transfer? The man pushed the door open and strode in. Carrying a large bag of supplements and Ren Wen's favorite snacks, he took off his coat, personally wiped her hands and feet, washed some fruit and fed it to her, and even meticulously followed a recipe to prepare the most nutritious meal, repeating the process no less than 10 times. Darling, eat well and get better soon. He scooped a spoonful of soup, carefully blew on it to cool it down, and then fed it to her, attentive, considerate, gentle, as always. Ren Wen watched all of this. But her heart grew colder day by day, because she knew that Lars Bo's love had long since changed. He would always feed the most delicious portion of every nutritious meal to Noah Lynn. He would press his ear against Noah Lynn's belly again and again, his face full of anticipation. In a few months, we'll be able to feel the baby kick. He would wait until she fell asleep, then secretly meet with Noah Lynn in the hospital room, until both of them were covered with ambiguous marks. He would introduce Noah Lynn to everyone. This is my wife, she's pregnant, and I hope everyone will take good care of her. Ren Wen just watched all of this quietly, neither crying nor making a scene. Those who truly want to leave are often too stingy to even say goodbye, as they consider it a waste of time. The bitter winter was harsh, with the wind sweeping up fallen leaves one after another. She only occasionally took the opportunity when Lars Bo and Noah Lin were together to call the agent handling the emigration procedures and inquire about the progress. On the day she was discharged from the hospital, the agent finally sent her a message through someone else. "Miss Wen, your procedures are expected to be completed the morning after tomorrow." Ren Wen finally breathed a sigh of relief, revealing a relieved smile. Lars Bo paused while supporting Noah Lin's hand. But his gaze fell on Ren Wen. Her smile was still as beautiful as it was 5 years ago, as if nothing had changed, but upon closer look, one could notice a trace of worry between her brows. He felt an inexplicable emotion in his heart and instinctively pulled Ren Wen into his arms. "Darling, cheer up. I'll always be here for you." Ren Wen subtly avoided his touch and smiled faintly. "I'm fine." Lars Bo suppressed the unease in his heart and planted a kiss on her forehead. "All right. I'll take you home." On the drive home, Lars Bo's gaze remained fixed on Ren Wen. He was about to hold her hand when he heard Noah Lin scream, "Watch out!" Bang! A violent crash. A black van instantly flipped them over. Ren Wen had a very long dream. She went back to 5 years ago, the first time she met Lars Bo. At that time, she hadn't lost her sight yet, and her favorite thing to do was to go on outdoor adventures. She came across him after he had fallen off a desolate mountain, broken a leg, was running a high fever, and was on the brink of death. She used all her reserves of food, water, and medicine to save his life. Lars Bo was unconscious for 3 days before waking up, by which time Ren Wen had already collapsed from exhaustion. It was he who cut his own wrist and fed her his blood 10 times to keep her alive until the rescue team arrived. When Lars Bo pursued her, he said that their survival in the wilderness must have been due to an unfulfilled bond from a past life, a match made in heaven, a friendship forged in life and death. But the scene shifts to Lars Bo throwing Noah Lin to the beast in an attempt to save her. Ren Wen screamed and opened her eyes. Her hands and feet were tied, and a black cloth covered her eyes, leaving her unable to see anything. She could only faintly hear someone speaking. "President Bo, your Bo family seized our Wang family's land, causing my family to go bankrupt. Shouldn't you pay some price for that? Wang Xinghe, you dare to kidnap me. You're asking for death." It was Lars Bo's voice. Wang Xinghe laughed maniacally, his tone deranged. "Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me, but simply killing you would be letting you off too easily." He stared at Ren Wen for a moment, then suddenly curled his lips into a cruel smile and said cheerfully, "How about we play a game?" Lars Bo clenched his fists tightly, a fierce glint flashing in his eyes. "I have 3 small punishments here, Mr. Bo. You choose who to save." With a wave of his hand, Ren Wen and Noah Lin were forcibly dragged to Wang Xinghe's side. "Woo woo." Noah Lin struggled in fear. Ren Wen gritted his teeth, enduring the stinging pain of the gravel scraping his back. Lars Bo saw this scene, veins bulging on his forehead. "Let them go. The matter between you and me. Why involve others?" Wang Xinghe, however, turned a deaf ear. The first punishment, seawater flooding. Lars Bo gasped for breath. "I'll give you anything you want. Just let them go." "Enough talk." Wang Xinghe's eyes turned sinister. "Since you won't choose, I'll throw both of them into the sea to feed the sharks." As soon as the words were spoken, Ren Wen and Noah Lin were both kicked into the icy seawater. "No!" Lars Bo roared. In an instant, the salty, fishy smell of seawater choked Ren Wen's mouth and nose, and a suffocating sensation tightly enveloped her. She struggled underwater, her lungs feeling as if they were being violently torn apart. She was thrown down and pulled up again, over and over, 3 times in a row. Ren Wen was already on the verge of death. When Wang Xinghe signaled his men to throw them into the water for the 4th time, Lars Bo's eyes were bloodshot, his voice hoarse. "Wang Xinghe, stop. I choose. Oh, who will Mr. Bo save, Ren Wen or Noah Lin?" Lars Bo hesitated for a long time between Ren Wen and Noah Lin, but his gaze ultimately settled on Ren Wen. "I choose." Noah Lin let out a painful whimper, the cloth stuffed in her mouth fell out, and she cried out miserably, "Lars Bo, save me, save our child." In an instant, the words in Lars Bo's throat came to an abrupt halt, and he closed his eyes. After a long moment, he rasped, "Noah Lin." Instantly, Ren Wen felt all the strength drain from her body. Wang Xinghe laughed wildly. Good, President Bo, what boldness. He personally grabbed Ren Wen by the hair and threw her into the icy sea water, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, until the 10th time. Lars Bo could no longer bear to watch, his eyes bloodshot. Are you trying to torture her to death? Isn't this what you chose yourself? Wang Xinghe mocked, watching Lars Bo's dark expression with amusement. The second punishment, 99 lashes. President Bo, choose, who will you save this time? Lars Bo's fists were clenched until they bled, his chest heaving violently. Ren Wen was still coughing her lungs out, seawater flooding her internal organs, every cell screaming in pain. She was thrown to the ground, her breath faint. It was clear she couldn't hold on any longer, but the next second, Lars Bo's answer threw her completely into the abyss. Noah Lin, beside her, Noah Lin wept with joy, biting her lip and timidly glancing at Ren Wen. Sister, you've suffered so much. Ren Wen paid no attention, only staring in disbelief in Lars Bo's direction, her heart almost numb with pain. The whip struck her body in an instant, and she let out a muffled groan as cold sweat broke out. The excruciating pain made her 10 slender, onion-like fingers clutch the rough ground tightly, leaving 10 shocking bloodstains on the gravel. 1, 2, 3, 55. Ren Wen's back was soaked with large patches of blood, and she nearly passed out. Lars Bo watched the scene unfold, his heart nearly torn apart. Stop it, I told you to stop, he screamed in despair, breaking free from the restraints and lunging toward Ren Wen. Noah Lin suddenly let out a sharp cry, clutching her stomach with a pale face. Help me, I think I'm having a miscarriage. Lars Bo froze, instinctively grabbing her hands tightly. What's wrong? At the moment of his hesitation, another heavy whip came down, and Ren Wen spat out a mouthful of blood with a phut sound. The man's pupils constricted sharply. Wang Xinghe watched this absurd scene and laughed heartily. Boss Bo, I happen to have a medical team here, but you can still only choose to save one person. Will you choose Noah Lin again this time? The whip lashed down again and again on Ren Wen's body. All she could hear was a sharp ringing in her ears. Unable to make out what Lars Bo said in response, she struggled to keep her eyes open. Only seeing that Lars Bo seemed to say something to Wang Xinghe nodded in agreement. He then held Noah Lin in his arms and hurriedly turned to leave. Carrying the woman in his arms, he strode off in the opposite direction without even looking back at her. Ha. She felt as if all the blood in her body had turned cold, her laughter filled with despair and brokenness. 99 lashes on her body could not compare to the heart-wrenching pain within. The setting sun at the horizon bled like crimson, and seagulls landed on her, their snow-white feathers instantly stained with blood. Lars Bo, your so-called match made in heaven, your sworn companion in life and death, it was nothing more than this. She struggled, with only her last breath left. The world before her eyes gradually blurred. Lars Bo, if there is an afterlife, I never want to love you again. After an unknown amount of time, a piercing siren sound echoed through the sky. Ren Wen has been rescued. After having her wounds treated at the hospital, she declined the suggestion to be hospitalized and returned alone to the empty castle. This was a place that Lars Bo had personally designed and supervised the construction of, just to bring a smile to her face. In just 2 short months, Noah Lin had already left traces of her life everywhere here. The walk-in closet and music room that originally belonged to Ren Wen were now filled with clutter. Even the set of wooden carvings she had personally engraved for Lars Bo were now tossed haphazardly on the floor. Back then, he had clearly said with reddened eyes that he would treasure them for a lifetime. Ren Wen looked at the pitch-black sky outside and let out a bleak laugh. It's been a full day and night. Lars Bo is still by Noah Lin's side. She smiled indifferently, wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and placed 3 items into the mailbox in front of the castle gate. The first item. It's the test report on the scented powder from the bouquet of flowers that Noah Lin gave her yesterday. As soon as he opens it, he will discover that the frenzy of the tiger and the black wolf that night was not an accident, but man-made. The bouquet contained a full dose of scent designed to induce frenzy. Second item. It was the medical examination report she had just done at the hospital, which showed that she had a miscarriage, when he chose to save Noah Lin. when he watched her being engulfed by the cold seawater, when he let her endure 99 lashes to protect Noah Lynn. This is the second time he indirectly caused the death of their child for Noah Lynn. The third thing was the broken diamond ring. It was the diamond ring that Lars Boe personally selected and polished in Africa 5 years ago when he proposed. It was polished a full 13 million times, taking half a year to complete. Such a pure, steadfast love caused a sensation throughout the city back then. The one who cherished her and placed her at the very center of his heart was him. The one who made solemn vows at the wedding, the one who promised to love Ren Wen for all eternity, was him. Yet, it was he who, for the sake of Noah Lynn, delayed treating her eyes for so long. It was he who, for the so-called atonement beast show of Noah Lynn, placed her in a perilous situation from which there was no return. It was also he who watched helplessly as she endured 10 drownings and 99 lashes. It turns out that this fiery, passionate love had long been extinguished into mere ashes amidst the continuous rainy seasons of Harbor City. Over the past 5 years, no matter how angry they got, Ren Wen never took it off. Now, Lars Boe, it's time to return it to you. The roar of a helicopter descended from the sky. Ren Wen squinted and looked up to see a familiar face resting its head on its hand. Watching her. Aren't you leaving, Alice? She stood still for a moment, then suddenly smiled and asked him, do you have a lighter, Nick? Nick whistled and tossed down a box of matches. Only this. Ren Wen nodded. That's enough. She endured the pain in her body and walked step by step toward the castle. Their love sprouted here, but it quickly withered and vanished amidst repeated deception and betrayal. She lit the match in her hand and threw it in. With a boom, the flames instantly engulfed the entire castle. The once warm and cozy home now felt like a living, man-eating hellish prison. Farewell, Ren Wen murmured, then turned and left without hesitation. Boarding the helicopter's engine roared, her clothes fluttering and snapping in the darkness as it headed toward the distant shore. At the same time, upon learning that Ren Wen had been rescued, Lars Boe was driving back frantically, on the ground and in the air, 2 completely opposite straight lines that will never intersect. On Jianghai Bridge, a Maybach S680 sped past, with Lars Boe pressing his lips tightly together, sweat trickling down his straight nose. Tick, tock, faster, a little faster. He needed to see Ren Wen immediately to confirm her safety. 10 hours ago, by the seaside, Lars Boe drained the Boe family of nearly all their cash flow before Wang Xinghe finally relented. Wang Xinghe's whip was stained with blood. Seeing Lars Boe's trembling pupils, he snorted disdainfully. So, even the proud and ruthless Crown Prince of Hong Kong City would lower his head for love. You promised me, get the medical team to treat Ren immediately. Lars clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot. Fine, Wang Xinghe, always keep my word. It's perfect to have her stay here as a hostage until the Boe Group transfers the money. I'll be the hostage, let her go. Lars Boe interrupted coldly. Wang Xinghe was taken aback for a moment, then burst into hearty laughter. Excellent, having President Boe himself as a hostage is more than I could ask for. But the next second, his gaze suddenly turned gloomy as he pointed at Noah Lynn. But she stays. I just heard this woman is carrying your child. Lars Boe's eyes darkened. Fine. He picked up Noah Lynn and was locked in a pitch-black warehouse by Wang Xinghe's men, in the darkness. The man's sharp brows furrowed tightly. Ren Wen's pale face kept replaying in his mind. He sat by the warehouse door, motionless, like a statue. Noah Lynn bit her lip. Lars, why did you agree to Wang Xinghe's offer? 500 billion. Lars Boe didn't answer, just quietly watched the sliver of light coming through the door crack, sketching that vague figure from that glimmer of light. Later, the sky gradually darkened, and even that glimmer of light disappeared, yet the man remained sitting there. After an unknown amount of time, a piercing siren sounded. He and Noah Lynn were rescued, only to learn that Wang Xinghe had never allowed the medical team to treat Ren Wen. He hurriedly asked the special police if they had seen Ren Wen, but was only told that she had left alone long ago. Lars Boe was frantic with worry. Ren was still injured, and the only place she could go was the castle. At that thought, he slammed his foot on the accelerator, and the car's speed instantly surged to 240. At such high speed, it wasn't long before Lars Boe caught a glimpse of the castle. A pleased smile curled at the corner of his lips, but the next second, that smile froze completely on his face, because within the castle, there was a sky full of flames, illuminating the heavens above as bright as day. Thinking of the resolute look in Renwen's eyes that he saw before leaving, as if ready to abandon the entire world, a terrifying thought slowly began to emerge in Lars Boe's mind. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The next second, a wild fawn suddenly appeared on the winding mountain road ahead. Lars Boe's pupils constricted sharply. The car was going too fast, and it was impossible to stop by braking. He gritted his teeth and sharply turned the steering wheel to the left, barely avoiding a collision. However, at that moment, the car had already completely veered off the mountain road. Lars Boe wanted to grab his phone to call for help. But an unexpected accident struck first. The car slid down in an instant, falling into the cliff, one on the other side. Inside the helicopter, Renwen leaned quietly against the side of the cabin, revealing a serene profile. "Wen, are you okay?" Nick turned his head, but was stung by her face, pale as paper. Ahem. Renwen suppressed the pain in her entire body and forced a smile. "I'm fine." He furrowed his brows, carefully observing her movements. She slightly curled her abdomen. Her hands trembling involuntarily, the helicopter encountered an air current and dodged, causing Renwen to sway with the fuselage, which tugged at the wound on her back. She gritted her teeth, and fine beads of cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Nick keenly noticed something. "Are you hurt?" Renwen wanted to shake her head, but her vision suddenly went black. Nick watched helplessly as her body, like a tattered and broken doll, slowly slid from the seat. His pupils contracted sharply, and he rushed forward in a few quick steps, holding her tightly in his arms. "Ren, wake up." His hand felt warm and wet. Nick looked down and saw it was covered in bright red blood. His face suddenly darkened as he pressed the intercom button in the cockpit. "Find the nearest hospital and land immediately." At the peacekeeping forces base, inside the military hospital, Nick stood by the window, watching one injured person after another being carried into the emergency room. Among them, some were shot through the eyes, some lost limbs, and others were injured by bombs. Blood dripped steadily from the stretchers, and the faces of every doctor and nurse were grave and numb. The light in the emergency room behind them went out, and the doctor removed his mask. "Doctor, how is she?" The white-bearded old man sighed and shook his head. "Not too good. Acute lung injury, pulmonary edema, rib fractures, internal organ rupture, and complications from a miscarriage." Each sentence, every word, felt like a heavy blow to Nick's nerves. He clenched his fists, a storm brewing in his eyes, and called out to the shadow behind him. "Vito, Master, I am here." Vito appeared behind Nick, his face unremarkable, the kind that would quickly disappear in a crowd. But no one would ever guess that his hidden identity was the most capable right-hand man to the head of the Italian mafia. "Go and find out why this is happening." Vida bowed slightly. "Yes, Master." That winter 5 years ago was the darkest time of Nick's life. On a day when snowflakes were swirling in the air, Renwen knocked on his door. Her eyes sparkled, a bright smile on her face. "Nick." The man looked up from his desk, removing his gold-rimmed glasses. "Ren, you look happy." Renwen pursed her lips. "Nick, I'm going back to my home country." Nick's fingers, tucked in his coat pocket, froze. The edges of the diamond ring dug painfully into his skin. "Why?" "I thought you had decided to stay in the UK to pursue ballet." The girl's eyelashes fluttered slightly. "Ren, did something happen? Tell me, I can help you." Renwen shook her head, pausing for a moment. I have someone I like." Nick's heart ached sharply, and the light in his eyes dimmed considerably. "Who is he?" The question swirled in her heart 4 or 5 times, but in the end, she didn't dare to ask it aloud. Later, she gave up her promising career in Northern Europe, abandoned the opportunity to become an international ballet dancer, and chose to return to her home country to marry Lars Boe. Nick could only swallow the words in his heart over and over, carefully hiding that unspoken crush. He no longer dared to follow any of her updates, let alone return to his home country. It wasn't that he hadn't tried to secretly check on her, But every time he witnessed such a scene of mutual love and trust, it felt like a slow, torturous death to him. That man adored her to the bone, his eyes filled only with her, unwilling to let her suffer the slightest grievance. Similarly, the girl Nick deeply loved had eyes only for that man. He was wildly jealous, yet he suppressed his inner emotions almost masochistically, mocking his own incompetence again and again. In the end, Ren Wen, and Hong Kong, became a place of sorrow he could not bear to touch. But why, in the end, was she left covered in wounds? Thinking of the resolute look in her eyes as she left Hong Kong today, a shadow of gloom flickered in Nick's eyes. Whoever hurt her must pay the price. 1 Harbor City. Lars Bo has been unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, his finger twitched. Noah Lynn's soft sobs abruptly ceased. A look of pleasant surprise flashing in her eyes. Doctor, doctor, his finger moved. The man on the hospital bed seemed to be awakened by the voice, frowning slightly as he lifted his eyelids. Seeing Lars Bo's open eyes, Noah Lynn threw herself onto him uncontrollably. Lars, you're finally awake. Do you have any idea how worried I was? She sobbed, rambling on. The doctor said if you didn't wake up today, you might never wake up again. Lars Bo's head throbbed dully, and he was annoyed by her noise. He pushed the woman in his arms away, looking impatient. Who are you? Noah Lynn's crying came to an abrupt halt. Her motion of wiping away tears seemed to pause abruptly, teardrops clinging to her lashes as she stared at Lars Bo in shock. Lars, you don't recognize me. I'm Noah Lynn. The man's brows furrowed even deeper. Where is my wife, Ren Wen? He disliked all women who resembled Ren Wen, even felt disgust toward them. Although this woman before him bore a striking resemblance to Ren Wen, Lars Bo could tell at a glance that she was not Ren Wen. Ren Wen had softer, gentler features, and when she lowered her gaze, there was a divine compassion in her expression. Just the thought of her made Lars Bo's eyes soften. He had prepared everything to propose to her at her birthday banquet 3 days later, especially that diamond ring. Lars Bo reached into his pocket, but his expression suddenly darkened. He frowned deeply and questioned Noah Lynn. Hey, where's my diamond ring? Have you seen the ring I was going to give to Ren? Diamond ring? What diamond ring? Wasn't that diamond ring given to Ren Wen 5 years ago? Meeting his completely unfamiliar and indifferent gaze, Noah Lynn felt as if her blood had frozen. She seemed nailed to the spot by a hammer, her eyes dazed and bewildered. Lars, what are you talking about? A trace of impatience flickered in Lars Bo's eyes. He had promised Ren Wen that he would give her a perfect wedding. The ring was her favorite style, and he had poured his heart and soul into it. If the ring were lost, she would surely be disappointed. Last time, to celebrate her birthday, he rushed back from France early, and she waited for him with great joy. But unexpectedly, the flight was delayed, and she ended up waiting for him for a full day and night. When he finally saw her, the little girl's eyes were swollen like walnuts. Since then, Lars Bo has never dared to break any promise he made to her. Thinking of this, he found the woman before him even more of an eyesore. This woman looked so much like Ren, and now she had inexplicably shown up here. He had carelessly lost the ring again, and it was sure to upset and anger the young girl. I don't care who you are, get out, right now, immediately, don't let me see you again. Lars Bo's eyes were cold as ice, filled with undisguised disgust. Noah Lynn finally realized. He had lost his memory. She broke free from the immense shock, only to be thrown into the abyss of panic. Lars Bo remembers Ren Wen, but he doesn't remember her. How can this be? Lars, don't you remember? I'm Noah Lynn. I'm the one you love the most. Noah Lynn's eyes were slightly red from agitation. She clutched Lars Bo's sleeve tightly, her fingertips turning white. He forgot her. How could he have forgotten her? So what do her 5 years of careful planning and scheming amount to, in that case? If she wants to use the child to claim a share of the Bo family's assets, the child's bloodline would definitely need to be verified. But this child isn't Lars Bo's at all. Noah Lynn suddenly panicked, grabbing Lars Bo's arm tightly, trying to make him remember quickly. The next second, she was violently thrown aside by a strong force and landed heavily on the ground. Get away! The man avoided her as if she were a plague. The door of the ward clicked softly, and Lars Bo's expression flickered with panic. He almost frantically took off the coat that Noah Lin had touched and instinctively explained, "Ren, she threw herself at me. I don't even know her." However, upon realizing it was Lu Cheng who had entered, he froze for a moment before anxiously asking him, "Lucian, you came at the right time, where's Ren?" Lucian had just learned from the doctor that Lars Bo suffered a head injury from the car accident. And his memory has reverted to 5 years ago. That was the year when he and Ren were most in love. Back then, she wasn't blind, and Noah Lin hadn't appeared yet. Lu Cheng heard Lars Bo's inquiry, and in his mind flashed the image of that charred, ruined castle. He turned his face away somewhat unnaturally, his lips trembling slightly as he suppressed his emotions. How deeply in love Ren Wen and Lars Bo had been back then, he knew best of all. But how could he bring himself to say it, that it had been 5 years since then, and Ren Wen was already, "Ren, she said she wants to go to Northern Europe for a few days and won't be back for a while." Upon hearing this, Lars Bo frowned deeply. "You're lying, our engagement is in a few days, why would she go to Northern Europe?" Ignoring the steel plates still supporting his legs, he struggled to get out of bed. "If you won't tell me, I'll go find her myself." His wounds hadn't fully healed yet, and all this struggling caused them to start bleeding again. The man seemed as if he had no sensation, gritting his teeth and continuing his movements. "Lars Bo, what are you doing? You're still injured." Noah Lin stepped forward to stop him but was shoved hard to the ground by Lars Bo. "Get away from me." As soon as the words were spoken, he himself fell heavily to the ground due to the momentum. The intense pain caused his coldly handsome face to stiffen and freeze for a few moments, with beads of sweat rolling down like raindrops. Lu Cheng quickly crouched down to help him, but something shiny fell out of his pocket. Lars Bo's movements froze. It was a broken diamond ring, stained with specks of blood. It was the very one he had intended to give to Ren Wen. In an instant, his heart ached as if torn apart, and his head throbbed with unbearable pain. Countless flickering, blurry images shattered in his mind. It seemed as if a familiar voice was screaming and crying. He clutched his exploding head in agony, the veins on his neck bulging. "It's Ren, it's Ren's voice. Why is she crying? Why is she screaming in agony?" With trembling hands, he picked up the broken diamond ring and rubbed the bloodstains on it with his sleeve, but the blood had dried firmly on it, and no matter how hard he scrubbed, it wouldn't come off. Lars Bo let out a heavy breath, gripping Lu Cheng's wrist so tightly it felt as if it might shatter. His eyes were bloodshot. "Whose blood is this? Where is Ren? Lu Cheng, tell me, or don't blame me for not holding back." He roared violently, as if a raw nerve had been struck. Lu Cheng's eyes reddened with emotion. He slowly closed them, forcing out a bitter smile. "You insist on seeing her, is that it? Of course I'm sure. Say one more word and see what happens." Lu Cheng stared at him for a few seconds, took a deep breath, and said, "Fine, I'll take you there." Peacekeeping hospital. Nick stayed by Ren Wen's side without leaving, flipping through the investigation results that Victor had delivered. His long eyelashes drooped, casting a shadow over his chiseled, mixed European and Asian features. The atmosphere in the ward grew colder, and Vito lowered his head even further. After a long while, Nick finally looked up from the thick stack of documents, his ice-blue eyes like a bitter winter, brewing a terrifying storm. "So, Ren got into a car accident shortly after returning to the country and has been trapped in that castle for 5 years. Yet the news I heard was that she was doing just fine." Victor's knee bent sharply, and he knelt directly at his feet. "Master, please calm your anger. I deserve to die." "Was it my stepmother?" The person kneeling on the ground paused slightly, then nodded. "Yes." The First Lady deliberately suppressed news of Miss Wen. Combined with Lars Bo's control and manipulation of the media, it actually, a cold, thin smile curled at the corner of Nick's lips as he laughed in extreme anger. "Good, excellent." The person on the sickbed let out a muffled groan and slowly opened their eyes. The coldness in the man's eyes faded as he stood up and grasped her fingers. "Ren, you're awake. How do you feel?" Ren Wen blinked dazedly, then gradually regained clarity. She had been unconscious for a full week, dreaming of many past events, sweet, confused, painful, struggling, desperate. Yet in the end, what she dreamed of was a magnificent, solemnly beautiful ballet stage. It was the place she had yearned for day and night 5 years ago. For this, she practiced diligently, falling countless times, standing up again and again, pushing her physical limits over and over. Finally, at the age of 21, she received an invitation from the Royal Ballet School in London. However, fate played a cruel joke on her. Her grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor said that even with the best medication, she could only hold on for a year at most. Not only would this year be extremely costly, but it would also require family members to be by her side. She was an orphan, adopted by her grandmother, who doted on her, loved her, cared for her, and used all her savings to support her education and dance training. Ren Wen rushed back to China upon hearing this news. Day and night without rest, covered in dust and grime, in just over half a year, that plump little old lady had become as thin as a bundle of dry sticks. As soon as she saw Ren Wen, Grandma's eyes widened. "Oh my, Ren, how come you're back? Grandma, how are you doing?" She rushed forward and hugged her. Grandma patted her thigh, trying to push her away. "Grandma's fine. Hurry back to dance. This isn't a place for you." Ren Wen held tightly onto her waist, tears welling up in her eyes. "I won't dance anymore, Grandma. I won't, my dear. You can't stop dancing. You've loved dancing since you were little, and no matter how hard it got, you never once complained. It's all my fault, all my fault." Grandma's condition worsened day by day, and the time she spent unconscious gradually exceeded the time she was awake. Her hand was as withered and thin as old, sun-dried wood. "Ren, Grandma's final wish is for you to find someone who loves and cherishes you." Not long after that, Grandma passed away. Ren Wen met Lars Bo. The two developed feelings for each other during that life-and-death hiking trip, and she followed her grandmother's last wish, staying in Hong Kong to marry Lars Bo. With this, she personally drew her close to her dance career. The girl who once shone so brilliantly was trapped in a pitch-dark castle, suffering and struggling in the darkness. She longed for Lars Bo's love like a parched land yearning for rain, seeing him as the only light in her life. But in the end, that kind of passionate love ultimately ended up rotting and decaying. Fortunately, it's not too late for her to turn back now. This time, she will stand on the stage again and reclaim everything that rightfully belongs to her. "Nick, I want to keep dancing. Why not knock twice for the place you wish to go?" Seeing the starlight reflected in her eyes, Nick was slightly taken aback. He nodded gently. "All right, let's dance. Once you've recovered, we'll continue dancing. And I'll accompany you on the piano." Ren Wen wiped away her tears and smiled, extending a hand to Nick. "All right, it's my honor to have the piano maestro, Mr. Nick, accompany me." The man chuckled softly and gently held her fingertips. He and Ren Wen had always been the most compatible partners. Hong Kong City. "You mean, it's 5 years later now?" Lars Bo's astonished voice came from the back seat of the car. He frowned as he looked at the unfamiliar scenery outside the window. "Does that mean I'm already married to Ren? Then we must already have children." "Lucheng, I'm a father, right?" His heart suddenly raced, and immense joy, like a splash of vibrant ink, painted his eyes and brows with delight. Lu Cheng silently turned the steering wheel, his lips parting without a sound. Immediately after, he heard the person in the back seat anxiously ask, "What's with the blood on the ring? What happened to Ren?" The car fell into a dead silence, broken only by Lars Bo's rapid breathing. "Lu Cheng, say something. What's going on? Did I do something wrong to upset Ren? Just tell me, so I can apologize to her." Lu Cheng slammed on the brakes, stopping beside a vast expanse of charred ruins. "We're here." He pushed the car door open and scrambled out, standing not far away, smoking desperately. The smoke blurred Lu Cheng's face, and only then did he dare to let his eyes redden quietly. 5 years ago, he met Ren Wen through Lars Bo and was deeply captivated by this radiant, exuberant girl. The three of them became close friends who shared everything. Later, they got married. After sincerely wishing them well, Lu Cheng went abroad to inherit the family business overseas. But, to his utter surprise, everything had changed when he returned. Lars Bo watched Lu Cheng's lonely and dejected figure, and an inexplicable sense of panic welled up in his heart. He slowly turned his head and looked at the scorched black ground. "Lucas, what is this place?" He heard his own voice, parched to the bone. "This is, You're and Ren Wen's home. Lars Bo's pupils trembled slightly. What? His eyes widened in shock as he stared at the ruins. Then where is Ren? Where is she? Lu Cheng let out a heavy breath, his voice trembling as he said, "The police said the fire was too intense, she didn't make it out." "Shut up," Lars Bo roared furiously. "I don't believe it, you're lying, you're lying." He frantically flung open the car door, tumbling and scrambling out from the back seat before crashing heavily onto the gravel-covered ground. He crawled on all fours toward the ruins. "Ren can't be dead, they must have made a mistake, how could my Ren die?" Beads of sweat the size of peas streamed continuously from his hair. Lars Bo muttered, mechanically digging through one piece of charred debris after another. "Ren, where are you?" The acrid smell stung his eyes, and a bone-chilling cold permeated every part of his body. "I'm sorry I'm late, I'm so sorry." Sharp stones and concrete quickly scraped his fingers raw, yet he seemed numb to the pain, mechanically repeating the motions. Lu Cheng tried to stop him but was shoved away forcefully. "Get out." Lars Bo's eyes were bloodshot. "Are you all insane? Why aren't you saving her? She must still be alive." He frantically dug through the collapsed ruins, his hands bleeding profusely, the wounds so deep the bones were visible. "Enough!" Lu Cheng roared in anger and landed a heavy punch squarely on Lars Bo's face. His voice choked with emotion as he shouted hoarsely, "Lars Bo, do you think this fire was an accident? She committed suicide, faced with such a ferocious, raging fire. She didn't even struggle, she had long stopped wanting to live." The man, who had been furious just a moment ago, suddenly froze in place. He looked up in a daze, his eyes filled with despair and shock. "What did you say?" He grabbed Lu Cheng's collar tightly and demanded, "How could she have committed suicide? She was such a proud, radiant person, how could she possibly kill herself?" Lu Cheng let out a scornful laugh, his gaze full of mockery as he looked at him. "Yes. Why would she do such a thing? Lars Bo, the one who truly drove her to her death is you." Lu Cheng's words struck like a thunderbolt, nailing him to the spot. Lars Bo took a step back in disbelief, instinctively refuting, "Impossible, that can't be. You broke her heart completely. How dare you forget all the pain she went through and put on such a deeply affectionate act now? Lars Bo, she is already dead, right here in this castle where you deceived and trapped her for 5 years. You have wronged her for a lifetime." Lu Cheng fiercely threw down these words and turned to leave. The midday sun blazed intensely, and Lars Bo suddenly felt a wave of dizziness. In an instant, many voices echoed in his ears. "Ren, don't cry, from now on, I'll be your eyes. Marry me, will you? I'll love you for the rest of my life. I am willing to enter the palace of marriage with Ren Wen, supporting and relying on each other through sickness and health, poverty and wealth, forever." Listening to these words, Lars Bo's expression gradually softened. It turned out that his future self was also loving Ren Wen well. However, the voice that appeared in his mind next shattered his joy completely. "Ren, I have to work overtime tonight. I made your favorite jujube paste and yam cake and left it in the fridge. Be careful when you go get it. I'm in a meeting right now. Can I call you back later? Baby, I've been really busy lately. Let's go to the concert together after I finish my work. Ren, I really didn't mean to forget your birthday. There have been so many things happening at the company recently." Layer upon layer of voices almost burst Lars Bo's head. He trembled as he let out a breath, his eyes filled with hatred. "Future Lars Bo, what on earth are you doing? The company is so big, how could it need you, the president, to work overtime, and how could you possibly forget her birthday?" He raised his hand and slapped himself hard, but the noise did not stop. Instead, it grew increasingly chaotic. This time, there was actually an unfamiliar woman's voice. "Lars, the baby keeps kicking me. He says he wants to hear a story from Daddy. Where are you going? Ren, there's an emergency at the company." "I'm sorry, Ren, I'm truly sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone on the snowy mountain. Don't cry, we can still have more children." Her eyes. "There's no need to cure them, Ren. This is the nutritionist I found for you. Hurry up and eat, stop joking. She's been preparing for a long time. 99 lashes. Who will you choose to protect?" "Lars, I think I'm having a miscarriage. I choose Noah Lin." Boom, a thunderous roar exploded in his mind. Even if he couldn't remember what had happened, with these scattered words, he could piece together a rough outline. That woman's voice belonged to the person he had just seen in the hospital room, so, over the past 5 years, he had fallen in love with a woman who looked 80% like Ren and even had a child with her. Even for her sake, he deceived and hurt Ren again and again. Lars Boe felt a surge of metallic sweetness in his throat, and a mouthful of blood sprayed onto the scorched ruins. The mixture of black soot and blood stung his eyes. Ha ha ha, Lars Boe, oh Lars Boe. How could you hurt her so much? Bang, he fell straight to his knees, his once upright and resilient back now bent beyond recognition. From the sun high in the sky to its descent in the west, a teetering figure in the vast expanse of scorched ruins continuously dug through the charred debris with bare hands. Ren, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please come back. Until nightfall, Lars Boe finally collapsed to the ground as if drained of all strength. Regret and agony engulfed him like a towering wave. He repeatedly struck his head against the hard, rough ground until his face was covered in blood. Tiny snowflakes fell one by one onto his eyelashes, melting the dried blood on his face, eventually turning into bloody water that soaked his entire body. He reached out his hand and caught a single, intact snowflake. In an instant, the sound of a man's broken sobbing echoed through the lifeless ruins. In the port city, winter rarely brought snow, yet Ren adored it deeply, especially the kind of vast, all-encompassing snowfall found in the Nordic regions. He had promised countless times to take her to see it after they married, yet, in the end, she lost her sight, and he fell in love with someone else. That snow, after all, did not fall on his and her shoulders. Lars Boe quietly curled up on the ground, tightly clutching the broken diamond ring in his hand. Ren, does it hurt? You were always afraid of pain. When the fire reached you, did it hurt a lot? When it's snowing, Ren rushed out of the house and reached out to catch a snowflake. Wow, so beautiful. The snowflakes landed on her eyelashes, making her look like a cute and lively little fairy. Nick followed behind, holding her coat. Ren, put on your coat. You've only just recovered. Her injuries had mostly healed. And aside from some lingering weakness, most of the other discomforts had subsided. Nick had sought out the most authoritative and strict doctors across Italy to examine her in shifts, repeatedly confirming her condition until he was finally reassured. Renwen's vision has been restored, but the prolonged period of blindness has caused some damage to her nerves. She cannot use her eyes for extended periods, nor can she experience strong emotional fluctuations. Upon hearing this news, she let out a long sigh of relief. It's a blessing in disguise. Ren, there's another piece of good news for you. Nick's gaze gently fell upon her, his deep blue eyes brimming with a tender smile. The doctor said you can start trying dance rehabilitation exercises tomorrow. Really? Ren immediately stood up, her face lit with surprise as she grabbed the man's forearm. Nick, are you really not lying to me? Nick nodded, but suddenly felt a soft weight in his arms. The girl had already thrown herself into his embrace in excitement. That's great, Nick, thank you. After realizing that the girl in his arms was the one he had been longing for over the past 5 years, Nick was instantly overwhelmed with immense joy. The man's entire body stiffened like a sheet of iron as he cautiously reached out and gently placed his hand on Renwen's back. Congratulations, Ren. The girl's shoulder blades were thin and light, trembling slightly now with happiness. Nick gently patted it as if it were a treasure. Ren, may you from now on be bright, spirited, and dance only for yourself. Harbor City. The lights in the emergency room stayed on all night. Lu Cheng sat on the bench outside, staring blankly at the 3 blood-red characters above. Resuscitation in progress. Lars Boe attempted suicide by swallowing charcoal, a life-threatening situation. Only when he truly realized what had happened did he understand how absurd and ridiculous this world was. In just a short week, he had nearly lost 2 of his closest friends. With a bang, the light suddenly went out. Lu Cheng snapped back to reality, wiping his face. Doctor, how is he? The doctor sighed softly. We managed to save him, but the patient has lost the will to live. There's nothing more we can do. The damage to his brain from the car accident hasn't healed, and now he's suffered another severe blow. Whether he wakes up or not depends entirely on his own will. The doctor's words hit Lu Cheng like a heavy hammer, nailing him to the spot. In the hospital room, Lars Bo was wearing a ventilator, his chest rising and falling very faintly. He was still clutching something in his hand, and Lu Cheng pried it open. Wrapped in the note was the broken diamond ring. The content read, "After I die, please have my body cremated and scattered here." Lu Cheng stared blankly at those lines of text. He knew Lars Bo had deep feelings for Ren Wen. But he never imagined that because of Ren Wen's death, Lars Bo would no longer value his own life. "Lars Bo, if you still have a conscience, you should wake up now, live on, and repent for your sins, not just die like this." The man lying on the bed remained still, showing no reaction. His face was so pale it seemed almost transparent, as if he might vanish at any moment. Lu Cheng let out a heavy sigh before being called away by the doctor. After he left, a familiar figure entered the ward. It was Noah Lin. She first frowned and carefully observed Lars Bo lying on the bed, then let out a sigh of disgust and frustration. "Hey, bro, I don't think he's going to wake up. We need to come up with another plan." She put the phone on speaker and placed it on the bedside table, freeing her hands to search all over Lars Bo's body for something. "Still need a plan? Why don't you just say you're Ren Wen and transfer the rest of his assets?" Noah Lin rolled her eyes. "Are you really that stupid or just pretending? Of course, any program requires facial and fingerprint verification. You've been Ren Wen for so long, who would suspect you?" Noah Lin couldn't be bothered to explain. After searching fruitlessly, she snapped in frustration, "What do we do now? All the money we got from him before was gambled away by you. You're blaming me. How was I supposed to know he'd lose his memory?" The man on the other end of the phone sounded irritable. Who would have thought that Ren Wen was so useless, just taking her own life like that, and Wang Xinghe is really something. Noah Lin stomped her foot angrily. Noah Lin's eyes suddenly turned vicious. "That car accident didn't kill that bitch, and she managed to survive for 5 more years. She's really got 9 lives. Don't be angry. Once Wang Xinghe gets that 50 billion, we'll call it quits." The man comforted her. She nodded helplessly and left in her high heels, but he didn't notice that on the hospital bed behind him, the man's fingers twitched slightly. Lars Bo had a very, very long dream. In the dream, there was no car accident, and Ren Wen did not lose his sight. They were always deeply in love and had 2 lovely, well-behaved, and sensible children. However, in the dream, he couldn't feel any happiness at all, knowing that everything was fake. The blow from Ren Wen's accident was so severe that even his brain's protective mechanisms were completely ineffective. Just as Lars Bo's will to survive was almost extinguished, he heard Noah Lin's voice. In that very moment, all his memories came flooding back. Shock and rage consumed him entirely. The Noah Lin he once saw as naive and unworldly was now rifling through his belongings for anything of value. Her tone and words were filled with greed and malice. "So, that accidental car crash. That Noah Lin who was accidentally sent to his bed, that accidental face so strikingly similar to Ren Wen's, and even Noah Lin's behavior, tone of speech, and preferences were uncannily identical to Ren Wen's. But could such coincidences really exist in the world? Also, what is the relationship between Wang Xinghe and her? And who is the man on the phone? No, he can't die yet, absolutely not." A faint flush suddenly spread across Lars Bo's pale face. He struggled to open his eyes, his gaze filled with a deep, ink-black ferocity. He needs to uncover the truth. If all of this was premeditated, someone must pay the price for this. And he, after everything is over, will go to Ren to confess his sins. Lars Bo dialed the phone. "Anderson, use your information network to help me look up someone." When Noah Lin first appeared by his side, he had investigated her identity, and there were no issues. There is only one possibility. Part of his information network has been blocked. Anderson is a top-tier hacker he met in South Africa. Once he takes action, there is no information he cannot uncover. This time, he must uncover the full truth of the matter. If Ren's mishap was a setup, then don't blame him for being ruthless. Northern Europe, manner. The sound of the piano drifted through the lush, blooming tulips. Spreading gently in all directions, amid the flowers, a graceful young woman gently rose on her toes, her movements elegant and powerful. Without the slightest hesitation, The sound of the piano grew more intense, and Ren Wen gradually quickened her spinning pace, like a dancing sprite, but gradually, her movements became slightly sluggish, and fine beads of sweat began to form on her forehead. As if sensing her struggle, the piano slowly began to ease into a gentler rhythm. "Nick, keep going. I can do it," Ren Wen gritted her teeth. Hearing this, the man behind the piano did not hesitate to quicken the pace of his hands. Nick trusted Ren Wen completely. He loved her, and more than her radiant and stunning appearance, he was drawn to her resilient and unyielding character. She was not a delicate flower in a greenhouse. As long as it didn't harm her health, he would do everything in his power to cooperate with her and fulfill all her needs. Sure enough, Ren Wen's movements were perfectly on beat, as she completed the dance exactly in line with the original rhythm of the song. Once the dance ended, she held her final pose, her chest rising and falling as she breathed out lightly and quickly. The look of amazement in Nick's eyes lingered for a long time, his gaze fixed on her, unwilling to look away. Ren Wen waved her hand in front of his eyes. "Hey, sir." Nick suddenly snapped back to attention, taking her fingertips in his hand. "It's beautiful. And you danced very well, far better than I had expected." He was telling the truth. Ren's movements were so skilled that it was hard to believe she hadn't performed on stage in 5 years. She must have practiced diligently in private, but for the past 5 years, she has been unable to see. Countless falls, countless moments of collapse and despair, all led to this dance. "Ren, wait here, I'll get your slippers for you." The moment Nick stood up to leave, Ren Wen caught a glimpse of the unmistakable tenderness in his eyes, and it gently touched the softest part of her heart. He always does this, able to see through her strong exterior to her vulnerable side. "He's still the same as he was 5 years ago, so attentive," she murmured softly. Vito stood behind Ren Wen, his head lowered even further. "Master is only like this when he's with you. At all other times, he is that ruthless and merciless mafia godfather." Even to the point of being somewhat brutal, she was lost in thought at these words and didn't notice the man had returned. Kneeling down to change her shoes for her himself, a warm palm covered the sole of her foot, and a blush spread across Ren Wen's cheeks. "Nick," she gasped softly, trying to pull her foot back. But it was held firmly in place. A ballerina's feet are never particularly beautiful. The more dedicated the dancer, the more scars and calluses they bear, and she was no exception. Nick's movements were very gentle, and she had already changed into slippers without feeling any discomfort. "Thank you, Nick, but you really didn't have to." It wasn't that she didn't understand Nick's feelings, nor was she unmoved by him, but as early as 5 years ago, she had already let him down once for various reasons. How can she, after being hurt by another man, now feel at ease enjoying his pure and passionate love? The gentlemanly man straightened the hem of her dress for her, saying, "I do all of this willingly, without expecting any repayment or response from you." His eyes brimmed with deep affection as he said, "Just by standing here, as long as I can see you doing well, that is the greatest gift heaven has given me." Ren Wen stared fixedly at his handsome features, her eyes slightly stinging. "But, I've lived with someone else for 5 years. Ren, you know I don't care." Ren Wen pursed her lips. "Nick, I'm afraid I might hurt you. What if I can't move on from what happened before? What if I can't love someone properly again?" Her voice grew softer, her eyelashes trembling uneasily. Nick, upon hearing her words, instead let out a low chuckle. Ren Wen was taken aback. "What are you laughing at? Ren, you don't need to worry about these things. It's okay if you can't move on. It's okay if you can't love. It's okay no matter what. I can accept all of you, at any time, if I make you feel uncomfortable. You can immediately say no to me, alright?" He gently smoothed her wind-tossed hair. "In front of me, all you need to be is yourself." Ren Wen paused. "Just, myself." Nick placed a kiss on the back of her hand. "Exactly." Meanwhile, in Harbor City, Lars Boe had already obtained what Anderson had looked up for him. He inserted the USB drive into the computer, and a full row of videos popped up. After watching one video after another, the man's face turned ashen, the color drained from his face, and his trembling hands, resting on his legs, dialed a phone call. The 5 billion given to Wang Xinghe. "It's time to recover it." "Yes, President Boe. I'll handle it right away." Bring Noah Lynn here. Tell her I've regained my memory and want to see her." The man's face was hidden in the darkness, shrouded in gloom, a sudden, crazed smile curling at the corner of his mouth. 1 hour later, Noah Lynn pushed the door open abruptly, her face lit up with surprise. "Lars, you're awake, that's wonderful." A barely noticeable shadow flickered in the man's eyes, yet his face wore a soft, affectionate smile. "Baby, you're here, you really remember." She threw herself into the man's arms, pouting with a mix of grievance and joy. "These past few days, how heartbroken and scared I've been. Do you know, I know everything." Noah Lynn pouted playfully while stealing glances at Lars Bo's expression out of the corner of her eye. Seeing that the man's expression remained unchanged from before, she finally felt at ease. Then, with a flicker in her eyes, she tentatively asked, "Lars, you didn't really transfer those 50 billion to Wang Xinghe, did you?" Lars Bo sighed, his brow furrowed with worry. "Yes, the 50 billion has already been fully deposited into Wang Xinghe's account. There's no way to get it back now." "No," Noah Lynn almost blurted out. She had just received a call from Wang Xinghe this morning, saying that not a single cent of that money had entered his account, but Lars Bo's words didn't seem like a lie. Could it be that Wang Xinghe deceived her? He wanted to keep all that money for himself. As soon as this thought crossed her mind, Noah Lynn shuddered involuntarily. Wang Xinghe had always been cunning and deceitful. If he were to do something like this, it wouldn't be entirely impossible. As she was thinking, she suddenly spotted Wang Xinghe behind the one-way glass of the CEO's office. He was following behind Lars Bo's assistant, grinning with a smug expression. How could he possibly look like someone with a grudge against the Bo family? Noah Lynn's expression stiffened. "Why is he here?" "Oh, you mean Wang Xinghe? He said he has a secret to tell me in person and refused to discuss it over the phone." Lars Bo sighed. "Sweetheart, wait here for me. I'll go see him." Noah Lynn watched the man's retreating figure, and the unease in her heart grew stronger. Wang Xinghe had already taken the money, yet here he was again. Based on her understanding of him, he must have some ulterior motive. But what bargaining chips did he have left? She lowered her head and glanced at her abdomen, her eyes suddenly widening. She shouted at the man who was about to walk out the door, "Wait!" Hearing this, Lars Bo paused in his steps, his fingers curling slightly at his sides. "Baby, what's wrong?" He turned his back to Noah Lynn, his eyes filled with indifference. "I have something to tell you. It's about Wang Xinghe." Noah Lynn's voice trembled. He turned around and smiled gently. "All right, baby, go ahead and say it." For the next hour, he sat quietly on the bench, listening to Noah Lynn fabricate the entire process of how she was forced, threatened, and intimidated by Wang Xing. Ignoring the woman kneeling on the floor with tear-streaked cheeks, Lars Bo's eyelids remained listlessly drooped as he idly fiddled with a piece not in his hand. If Noah Lynn could calm down and take a closer look at the piece not in his hand, she would realize it was the very one Ren Wen had obtained for Lars Bo by kowtowing step by step up all 999 stairs of Chonghua Temple. Noah Lynn's sobs gradually subsided. Clutching the man's pant leg, she pouted in grievance. "How dare he treat me like this? Lars, you must avenge me." As soon as the words fell, a mechanical door behind her rumbled open. She instinctively turned to look and let out a piercing scream. There, Wang Xinghe was seen hanging in mid-air with a noose around his neck, his face turning blue and purple, his eyes bulging out. "Mr. Wang, you heard it too. My wife said you bullied her." Wang Xinghe shook his head with difficulty, trembling as he raised his finger to point at Noah Lynn. "She's lying to you." Lars Bo raised an eyebrow, signaling to let the person down. "You wretch, how dare you frame me?" Wang Xinghe roared and lunged at Noah Lynn, grabbing her hair and slapping her hard several times. For a moment, the room was filled with angry curses and screams, almost loud enough to lift the roof. "You slut! Have you forgotten when you took off your clothes and lay on my bed, begging me to have you? You're talking nonsense." Noah Lynn screamed, cutting him off as she clung to Lars Bo's ankle. "It was you who tried to bribe me to harm Lars. I never agreed to it. Lars, you have to believe me." Woo-woo. Lars Bo wore a barely noticeable smile at the corner of his mouth. "Of course I believe you. Baby, hurry up and get up. Don't hurt our child." Wang Xinghe widened his eyes and suddenly remembered something. The child, President Bo, that child isn't yours. Don't let this bitch deceive you. Lars Bo frowned. What did you say? Bullshit. Noah Lin, struck to the core, bristled like a cat with its fur standing on end, shedding all pretense of innocence and fragility. She pointed at Wang Xinghe and cursed, "You motherless bastard, say one more word of nonsense and see what happens." "Am I talking nonsense?" he said with a sinister expression. "Noah Lin, you don't know, do you? Just one amniocentesis can determine whose child you're carrying." Noah Lin's pupils contracted sharply. She truly had no idea. She instinctively looked at Lars Bo's reaction, only to see the man staring at her abdomen with a troubled expression. In an instant, a wave of immense panic washed over her. The child is certainly not Lars Bo's, but Wang Xinghe's. If this were to be discovered, all her carefully laid plans would be ruined. She closed her eyes, as if making a firm resolution. "Wang Xinghe, since you are unkind, do not blame me for being unjust." Gritting her teeth, she poured out all of Wang Xinghe's shady dealings, secrets, and unspeakable schemes like spilling beans from a bag. After speaking, with tears in his eyes, Lars Bo sobbed, "Lars, I hid by his side and did all of this for you." Wang Xinghe's face flushed as red as pig liver, actually laughing in disbelief at Noah Lin's shamelessness. Everything had been exposed, so what was there left for him to hide for her? He then revealed everything about Noah Lin's plastic surgery and her deliberate attempts to get close to Lars Bo. The two began fighting again. Constantly cursing at each other, Lars Bo sat leisurely in the leather chair, smoking an expensive cigar, enjoying the exceptionally thrilling dog-eat-dog scene. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Xinghe finally realized something. He looked at Noah Lin, who was still frantically hitting him, and finally couldn't hold back any longer, slapping her across the face. "Idiot!" Noah Lin collapsed to the ground, her hair disheveled, gasping for breath, seeing Lars Bo's indifferent and icy gaze. Her heart suddenly tightened. You did this on purpose. Lead her to first falsely accuse Wang Xinghe, then provoke him and watch them implicate each other. "Lars, believe me, I'm carrying your child." The man's raven feather-like eyelashes lifted slightly. "Take her for an amniocentesis, light and airy." As if talking about something trivial, a line of people in white lab coats filed in, gagging Noah Lin, restraining him, and dragging him out. "MMPH, MMPH, MMPH, Lars Bo. You're despicable and shameless." Wang Xinghe cursed as a team of customs police burst in, holding an arrest warrant and speaking fluent London-accented English. "Wang Xinghe, you are involved in illegal detention and intentional injury. Please come with us." The snow was falling heavily. Lars Bo stood in front of the corridor, holding the amniocentesis report in his hand. The words "no blood relation" pierced his eyes like shards of ice. Shortly after, his assistant brought the remaining evidence found in the castle's mailbox. The man stared at the hallucinogenic spice test report for a long time, his heart feeling as if it were being repeatedly kneaded and crushed by an invisible hand. It turned out that the so-called apology animal taming performance was nothing but a deliberate attempt to murder Ren Wen. He had ignored her refusals and resistance, forcibly carrying her down to face punishment, resulting in his beloved girl being pounced on by a wild beast, her ribs broken, nearly losing her life, while he stood not far away, tightly protecting Noah Lin, and these were far from the only ways he had wronged Ren. For Noah Lin and the child in her womb, who had no blood relation to him, he repeatedly lied to her, claiming he had company matters to attend to, and even instructed the doctor not to cure her eyes, leaving her to live in darkness and fear for 5 long years, while Noah Lin nestled in his arms, acting coquettish. The girl he truly loved was abandoned by him on the mountain, buried under an avalanche of snow. He had personally killed his and Ren's first child. The man's tall, upright figure hunched over, his face turning ashen gray. He scrolled down, only to see something that shattered him even more, plunging him into utter despair. "That is an abortion report. It shows that the fetus was over 2 months old. Fetal asphyxia occurred due to the patient's severe internal injuries, and a severe external injury led to the miscarriage." "No, how could this be?" Lars Bo suddenly lost all strength and slid to his knees on the ground. That is to say, at the time when she was kidnapped by Wang Xinghe, she was already pregnant with his child, and because he was concerned about the child in Noah Lin's womb, Wang Xinghe's child, he ended up causing the death of his own second biological child. Phut, with a sudden sound, a mouthful of fresh blood spurted from his lips, staining the pure white snow crimson. Lu Cheng was startled. Lars Bo. He quickly stepped forward to support the faltering man. Lars Bo, what's wrong with you? However, the blood from the man's mouth showed no sign of stopping. Instead, it gushed out more and more. The blood stained his handsome brows and eyes. He let out a few dazed laughs and said, Lars Bo, oh Lars Bo, is this what you meant by always being good to her? Is this what you meant by always protecting her and being her eyes? You were the one who hurt her. You were the one who exposed her to danger. You were the one who took away her sight. He pressed his forehead against the rough, cold ground, knocking it again and again. Ren, I'm sorry to you. Lu Cheng watched this scene, his eyes slightly stinging. How did the deeply beloved couple from their youth come to this irreparable point, separated by life and death? A frantic figure suddenly rushed out of the villa, screaming as they ran towards Lars Bo, followed by a doctor holding a syringe and a scalpel. Noah Lin's hair was disheveled, her delicate makeup smudged on her face, forming messy patches of powder. Lars Bo, you can't do this to me. I truly care about you. She clung to Lars Bo's trousers. Have you forgotten? You said I was the woman you loved most, and you even named our child. He even kicked you. A heavy slap landed on her face, cutting off her incessant chatter. Drag her away and throw her out into the heavy snow. Lars Bo snapped angrily. You should know the pain and suffering that Ren once endured. Noah Lin lay on the ground, wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, and suddenly burst into mad laughter. Lars Bo, you're blaming everything that happened back then on me. I wasn't the one who harmed her, it was you. You gave me the power to hurt her. Your attitude condoned my actions. Now she's dead, and it's all your fault. Lu Cheng watched as Lars Bo's face grew increasingly pale, almost turning transparent. Frowning, he roared furiously, What are you all standing around for? Drag her away. Silence fell once again. Lars Bo blankly reached out his hand, catching a crystal-clear snowflake. It's snowing. He leaned on Lu Cheng's shoulder and murmured, Lu Cheng. I miss her so much. That little girl still holds a grudge against me, refusing to visit me in my dreams even once. He showed a smile uglier than crying. God says, even if I die and go to her, I'll end up in Avsi hell. I'll never see my angel again. Lu Cheng covered his face in agony, his phone slipping from his pocket and a message popping up. Nordic Ballet Queen Alice returns to the stage for a public performance. Countdown, 3 days. Lars Bo's gaze fell on the screen, and an astonishing, peculiar light suddenly burst forth in his eyes. Seeing this, Lu Cheng was startled. Lars Bo, this isn't Ren Wen, she just looks similar. The man, however, paid no attention, muttering like a madman, I recognize her. It must be her. It must be her. Ren isn't dead. To Northern Europe. Nick held Ren Wen's hand, strolling through the streets of Milan. Heavy snowflakes fluttered down, kept at bay by the umbrella in his hand. Not a single one staining Ren Wen's expensive and luxurious wool coat. Ren, what would you like to eat later? Ren Wen thought of the French cuisine he had been eating lately, his handsome face scrunching up like a steamed bun. I don't want French food anymore, I want to eat. Yet the words that needed to be said remained unspoken, a layer of dim dust veiling her eyes. The girl lowered her head, her eyelashes fluttering restlessly. Forget it, I don't feel like eating anything. She remembered the shepherd's purse dumplings and Osmanthus cakes her grandmother used to make, a taste she had always longed for, but could no longer savor. Nick gently touched her ear and sighed. Ah, what a pity about the shepherd's purse and Osmanthus I had airshipped over. Really, how did you know I wanted to eat it? Ren Wen threw herself into his arms, her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. Yes, I specifically learned the Huzhou style of making it. It took me a long time to dare show off in front of Miss Wen. He smiled adoringly and, imitating mainland etiquette, bowed to the girl with a cupped hand salute. I hope you'll do me the honor. The girl was amused by his gesture and covered her mouth as she laughed. quickly helping him up. Of course I will. Such a handsome man and beautiful woman caught everyone's attention. In the snowy scenery, this scene was as beautiful as a painting. However, in the eyes of some, it was so glaring. Ren. Lars Bo rushed out, trying to pull Ren Wen back into his arms. How can you be so close to another man? You're my wife. However, before he could even touch the hem of her clothes, he was held back a meter away by the bodyguards accompanying Nick and Ren Wen. Let go of me. Let me go. His struggles were in vain. Only shattering his air of dignity, Ren Wen and Nick stood at a distance, watching coldly. Sir, I'm afraid you've mistaken me for someone else. This is my wife. Nick said with a cold, mocking tone in fluent French, as if to confirm his words. The girl tightly grasped Nick's hand, her gaze toward Lars Bo as cold as ice. I don't know you. Her voice was like frozen steel. Lars Bo felt as if his heart were being slowly sliced apart by a blunt knife. He shook his head. No, you're lying. Ren, you're still angry with me, aren't you? Did you do this just to punish me? Ren Wen scoffed lightly and very naturally planted a kiss on Nick's face. We are legally married, sir. I told you I don't know you. Please leave. Lars Bo watched her actions, his eyes turning bloodshot, the bitterness in his throat nearly bringing tears to his eyes. Ren, you can't do this to me. You can't do this to me. He lost his voice, but saw the girl turn her face away. Refusing to give him another glance, the man beside her comfortingly squeezed her fingertips, pulling her into his embrace, and whispered, Madam, let's go home. Don't go, please. Ren, he was disheveled and pinned to the ground, the snow staining his robes. Ren, listen to me. I've already dealt with Noah Lin. I've repaid her tenfold for what she did to you. She'll suffer 1,000 times more than you did. And Wang Xinghe, I've also. Ren Wen didn't even bat an eye. Her eyelashes remained still as she gestured for the security police. There's a madman here. Please take him away. The police nodded. Don't worry. Lars Bo was forcefully shoved into the police car, watching helplessly as the girl he loved nestled in another man's arms. The man was planting a kiss on her forehead, his eyes filled with tenderness. This was the first time Lars Bo realized that the wind in the Nordic region was so much colder than in the port city, bitingly cold. Almost freezing him into ice shards. Ren Wen had already taken a hot shower, changed into a fluffy bear-themed pajama, and was sitting at the dining table with an expectant look. Soon, Nick brought up the shepherd's purse dumplings and Osmanthus cakes. Her eyes widened in an instant. The dumplings were plump and full, with thin skins and generous fillings, while the Osmanthus cakes were crystal clear, fragrant and sweet. Wow, so amazing. She couldn't wait to take out the chopsticks she had prepared earlier, picked up a piece, and stuffed it into her mouth, her eyes suddenly lighting up. So delicious. Nick smiled dotingly. Eat slowly, little flower cat. He reached out to wipe the Osmanthus petals from her face, and Ren Wen's face instantly flushed bright red. The man teased, a legally married couple. The girl raised the plate to cover her face, her voice muffled. Hello, Mr. Nick, have you lost something? What is this thing? Your audacity. Nick smiled helplessly and rubbed her head, but didn't expect the girl to suddenly lean in and plant a kiss on his forehead. It's delicious. Thank you, Nick. With that, she dashed like the wind to the dance studio on the second floor. The man gazed longingly at her retreating figure and made a phone call. Vito, notify the Milan police to take good care of our friends who have come all the way from Hong Kong. Yes, master. 2. Teatro Massimo, Palermo. People came in a continuous stream to watch the ballet, many of them drawn by the return of the dance prodigy Alice, who had been absent for 5 years. Lars Bo limped on one leg, making his way step by step toward the theater. However, just as he struggled through the crowded flow of people and reached the entrance, he was stopped by an attendant. Sir, you cannot go in. Why? He frowned in surprise. This was his only chance to see Ren Wen again. The theater doesn't have invitations. All ticket-holding audience members are allowed entry. Unexpectedly, the attendant took out a photo, carefully compared it to Lars Bo's face, and then said with a serious expression, due to malicious harassment of our dance troupe member, Miss Alice, you have been permanently banned from the Palermo Grand Theatre. Please leave. Lars Bo froze in place. like a person craving light in the darkness having their only candle extinguished. No, that's not right, listen to me, I do know Alice. I'm her husband. The waiter's eyes grew even more disdainful. Alice's partner is Mr. Nick. Do you think I'm a fool? The French accent sounded particularly sharp. Lars Boe hurriedly took out his phone and pulled up a wedding photo of himself and Ren Wen. Look, she really is my wife. Ha ha ha. We've already investigated. This woman's name is Noah Lin. There's an idiom. Passing off fish eyes as pearls, isn't that exactly what you're doing? The waitstaff burst into laughter. Looking at Lars Boe with even more disdain. Get out of here. Don't block us from serving other guests. He was rudely shoved aside and could only press himself against the theater window, straining to catch another glimpse of Ren Wen, backstage at the theater. Ren Wen had already changed into her performance costume and was having her stage makeup applied by professional staff. It had been 5 years since she last stepped onto the theater stage, and she still felt a bit nervous. Taking a few deep breaths, she mentally rehearsed the movements and beats. The door to the dressing room was pushed open, and a strikingly handsome face appeared before Ren Wen. How did you get here? She asked, her face lighting up with surprise. Nick grasped her slightly sweaty palm. I was getting anxious waiting out front and worried about my princess, so I had to come and check on you myself. Don't be afraid, Alice. I've seen how hard you've been working all this time, practicing from day to night, never leaving the dance studio until you're completely exhausted. Your dance is already perfect. All you need to do now is enjoy the stage. His deep voice seemed to have a certain magic, gradually calming Ren Wen's restless heart, replacing it with a surge of self-confidence. Yes, she was ready to face new challenges, ready to embark on a new life, ready to live and strive only for herself. What she should do is enjoy this process of reinventing herself. Having thought this through, Ren Wen's gaze grew resolute. She gently hugged Nick and said, "Thank you for always encouraging me and believing in me." He meant more to her than just a lover. He was more like a mentor and friend in her life. Soon, it was time for Ren Wen to take the stage. She walked behind the curtain, her eyes filled with a brilliant galaxy of stars, quietly awaiting the grand opening of the performance. The next moment, the curtain was drawn, and dazzling lights shone upon her as the music slowly began to play. Ren Wen gently opened her eyes, her toes twitching slightly as she began to spin and dance like a sprite. Those well-rehearsed movements ultimately transformed into a masterful performance, flawlessly presented to the audience, instantly igniting thunderous applause. Yet the girl on stage was completely immersed in her own world, dancing in the place of her dreams, each clean, powerful movement shattered the shadows of the past, and all the lights converged on her, with everyone's eyes fixed upon her. Every person in the audience held their breath, mesmerized by this breathtakingly beautiful performance. Nick's fingers danced swiftly across the piano keys, blending the delightful, beautiful music perfectly with the dance. Outside the theater, Lars Boe stared blankly at the scene, letting the wind and snow fall upon him, freezing half of his body, yet he did not move an inch. The girl on stage was so dazzling, beautiful, bold, and confident, just like the first time he met her. He hadn't seen such a Ren Wen in a very, very long time. How did she live through those 5 years of blindness, unease, fear, restraint, in that small, confined castle? She was called again and again by life and dreams, only to be beaten down by the harsh reality. He deprived her of the right to embrace the light and pursue her dreams, confining her to a cage like a canary. Is this kind of love truly love? Lars Boe clung tightly to the window, not daring to look away for even a second. Afraid of missing every moment of her actions and expressions, he finally realized how terribly wrong he had been and understood why Ren Wen no longer wanted to acknowledge him. The theater let out, and the audience filed out one after another, nearly everyone wearing an expression of lingering satisfaction. Lars Boe leaned against the warm yellow streetlight, wrapping his scarf around his face, wanting to catch another glimpse of her. He overheard several people praising Ren Wen's performance, saying that after 5 years of silence, she had developed a resilience as sharp as a sword. Unconsciously, the corners of his mouth lifted, and he felt an inexplicable joy in his heart. It didn't take long before that charming figure appeared before him. Ren Wen had changed out of her performance outfit, her small face buried in a thick cashmere scarf, as she happily ran into the heavy snow. "Nick, it's snowing again." She spun around and around in the snow, then excitedly threw herself into the man's arms. "I really like it here." Nick brushed the snowflakes off her head. "Is it because it always snows here?" Ren Wen turned around, slightly surprised. "Of course it's not just because of that. I like it here because you're here." The man behind the pillar trembled violently at these words. Nick was slightly taken aback. "Ren," a gentle and radiant smile graced her lips. "All right, now I officially declare that you can propose to me. How did you know?" Nick's eyes widened. He had indeed prepared the engagement ring and other things, but he wanted to leave all the choices to Ren Wen, not wanting her to feel even the slightest bit forced or reluctant. But what he never expected was that the person he loved would say those words to him herself. "Am I dreaming?" Ren Wen gently shook her head, burying her face in his chest and nuzzling against him. "Nick, it was you who supported me in pursuing my dreams, allowed me to be myself, and gave me the courage to start over. It wasn't me, it was you." The girl stood on her tiptoes and planted a soft kiss on the corner of his mouth, but the man held her firmly in his arms, deepening the kiss. The unique sandalwood scent on the man intertwined with the jasmine fragrance on her. The snow fell slowly, gently, as if reluctant to disturb this beautiful moment. Lars Bo covered his face and slowly crouched down, tears spilling from between his fingers. This time, his feelings for Ren Wen were not possessive love, but endless regret. Regretting having lost the one he loved. "Ren, I'm sorry," he murmured, confessing over and over in the snow and ice. After Ren Wen and Nick left, Lars Bo received a call from across the ocean. Lu Cheng anxiously asked him, "Lars Bo, have you found Ren Wen? I saw the latest report that ballet diva is now famous. I remember Ren loved to dance ballet too. Could that be her?" Lars Bo sat at the entrance of the theater, his slender fingers repeatedly stroking the face of the girl on the poster. He did not answer Lu Cheng's questions one after another, only silently confessing in his heart. Suddenly, a tall and slender figure stopped in front of him, casting a shadow under the streetlight. He looked up and saw that handsome yet overwhelmingly imposing face. "It's Nick. Did you intentionally let me see Ren being intimate with you?" Lars Bo narrowed his eyes. Nick raised an eyebrow. "Why would I need to be intentional? Things like this happen every day." Lars Bo's face turned ashen, and he stubbornly said, "Although Ren loves you now, I've been with her for so long. Who is more important in her heart is still uncertain." Unexpectedly, Nick wasn't angry but instead nodded. "Is that so? If only Mr. Bo's skills matched his confidence." "What do you mean?" Nick lit a cigar, elegantly and gracefully blowing out a smoke ring. "Do you think you managed to deal with Wang Xinghe so quickly, with just the clumsy tricks of your underlings, Mr. Bo?" Lars Bo's expression changed. "Those customs police, they're your people." Nick didn't answer his question, turning to leave. "Wang Xinghe, and that woman, I don't trust handing them over to Mr. Bo. After all, the punishment they deserve goes far beyond what you've arranged. As for you, Mr. Bo, I certainly have a big gift in store for you as well." Lars Bo was slightly taken aback. What? He had a bad feeling in his heart. The next second, Lars Bo's phone was bombarded with text messages, the flood of messages all read. "Bo Group's capital chain has broken, market value evaporated by 90%. The man took long strides and casually left a remark. "Mr. Bo, I hope you won't disturb me and my wife again, or I can't guarantee that the remaining 10% won't vanish immediately." Lars Bo froze in place, his eyes and eyebrows covered in frost. He saw a graceful figure step out of the car and take Nick's hand. Lars Bo suddenly had a premonition that this might be the last time he would see her. From then on, his world no longer had that bright and radiant girl. He could only hope and gaze at Ren Wen countless times from across the distant ocean. He stumbled, running toward Ren Wen with all his might. "Ren Wen, Ren." The woman's figure paused slightly, her delicate profile appearing even colder against the snow and ice. "Ren, I beg you, could you just turn around and look at me? Let it be a lingering thought for me in these remaining days of atonement." Lars Bo waited with anticipation for her to turn back, But the woman's figure only paused for a moment before she continued walking forward, holding Nick's hand as if nothing had happened. Renwen did not look back even once. She straightened her back and strode forward resolutely and decisively. "Lars Bo," I said, "I will never love you again. I will never stay for you." Snowflakes gently fell on her and Nick, just like that, walking together until their hair turns white. Renwen was proposed to on a warm and gentle spring day, all because she once casually told Nick that she wanted to wear a beautiful dress on every important day of her life, so he dedicated this day to the spring of the Amalfi Coast. There weren't many guests at this proposal, only their closest friends. The sea under the sunset was dyed orange-red. Reflecting on her face like a natural blush, Nick held the diamond ring, knelt on one knee, his deep blue eyes fixed on Renwen, never leaving for a moment. He adores his princess just as he did 5 years ago, loyalty, respect, and care. Renwen has now received the invitation from the London Grand Theatre once again, inviting her to become the principal dancer. This time, she firmly seized the opportunity. Just as now, she reaches out and puts on the ring that symbolizes true love. Fingers intertwined, they embrace amidst the cheers of the crowd and the rhythmic crashing of the waves, setting out once again to pursue their dreams and love. Renwen held Nick's hand, standing side by side as they were drenched in one snowfall after another, and witnessed one blossom after another, until, white hair,